Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dafa Zakarmi from CA Class English Department. Today, in this occasion, I want to deliver you guys material about simultaneous interpreting production pace or reformulation. Okay, let's begin to the material. What is simultaneous interpreting? Let's begin to the explanation first. Language interpretation involves the verbal language of speech being delivered. It means in simultaneous interpreting, the interpretation is delivered in real time, and the speaker doesn't have to pause and wait for the interpreter to translate part of the speech that has been delivered. They can continue speaking while interpreting, thus the work of translating the speech into another language directly. Production pace. Reformulation. The purpose of reformulation was to help interpreter being able to recognize information from what are the speaker are saying. So interpreter must be able to deliver meaning of the message, like conclusion of the message speaker was saying. In this phase, interpreter must have a good linguistic skills, short-term memory, and a good confidence while delivering meaning of the context. Next, tactics that interpreting use in reformulation. First, anticipation. Second, practical action and technique. Third, use acronyms and abbreviation while interpreting. Fourth, use bullet interpretation means deliver the message without hesitation and directly. Fifth, reproducing the sound heard in the search language speech. Sixth, using good math help. Seventh, having instant naturalization of meaning. Next, what needed in simultaneous interpreting? Well, listening and analysis, which included the mental operation between perception of a discourse by auditory mechanism and the moment at which interpreter either assigned or decided not to assign the meaning. Next, short-term memory, which includes all of the mental operation related to the storage in memory of heard segments of discourse. Next, production, which includes all of mental operation between the moment and at which the interpreter decides to convey a datum or an idea and the moment at which he articulates the meaning. Next, the idea of short-term memory simply means that you are retaining information for a short period of time without creating the natural mechanism for later recall. And last but not least, try to extract information first before doing interpreting will help interpreter while translating to the context of the message. Okay, I think that's all my presentation today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am David Pramana Putra from Class 3A English Department. In this time, I will do a presentation about simultaneous interpretation. Simultaneous interpretation is when an interpreter translates the message from the source language to the target language in real time, unlike in consecutive interpreting. This way, the natural flow of the speakers is not disturbed and allow for fairly smooth output for the listener. Story of simultaneous interpretation. The number trials 1945 until 1946 are considered to be the official birth date of simultaneous interpretation. However, simultaneous interpretation was invented as early as in 1926. A patent was received by an IBM employee, Alan Gordon Finlay, and was used sporadically before the World War II. Finlay played an essential role in the design and development of SI equipment. In 1926, Edward Phelan wrote a letter to Sir Edward Drummond in which the concept simultaneous interpretation is used for the first time in written history. In his letter, Edward Phelan talked about his idea to use simultaneous interpretation in the League of Nations as early as April 2, 1925. Phelan wrote to Sir Edward Drummond on the day. Basis of interpreting skills. Understanding of the source language text. And then conversion of the source language text into the target language text. Delivery of the target language text. Production or reformulation. Reformulation is the overall strategy in simultaneous interpreting. There is a great deal of difference between English and Chinese, so it's impossible to interpret word to word. Reformulation can help interpreter to reorganize the original information according to the convention of target language. Reformulation technique. Following are the tactics used in reformulation in order to eliminate the potential consequence of production problem or short-term memory problem. A. Delaying the response. B. Using both math. C. Consulting document in the both. D. Replacing a segment with a superordinate term or a more general speech segment. E. Explaining or paraphrasing. Short-term memory is an essential part in the process of interpreting. The short-term memory includes all the mental operations related to storage in memory of hard segment of discourse until either their restitution in the target language. They're lost if they vanish from memory or a decision the interpret not to interpret them. Technique for improvement of short-term memory. Some techniques for enhancing the quality of memory are retelling in source language, shadowing, mnemonic technique, short-term memory exercise with inference, newspaper, or news translation, and speech translation. In order to enhance the memory, one can memorize phone number, poem, literary plays, simple scientific formula, etc. Okay, I think that's all about my presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Production phase or reformulation. So in other words, reformulation is a technique that is often used when translating interjection, idioms, or proverbs. Many translators use different expression to transfer the same meaning. In case in interpreting, reformulation purpose is to correctly deliver the exact same meaning of the speaker says to target language. Then there is reformulation strategies on the basis of Falbo's categorization. There are three types of process, which is first morphosyntactic reformulation that have 4 segments. Number 2, synthesis have 3 segments. Number 3 is expansion that have 4 segments. Morphosyntactic reformulation. The first segment is morphosyntactic transformation. That is a transformation of a subordinate clause into a main clause, of a negative clause into an affirmative clause, and of a noun phrase into a verb phrase or vice versa. Number 2 is syntactic segmentation. It consists in dividing long clauses into shorter clauses. Number 3, list a commitment strategy. It consists in leaving the clauses open to add coordinate or subordinate clauses if faced with the so-called garden path sentences. Last, changing the order of phrases of elements of other type within the clause. This strategy taken from Kirchhoff in 1976 and Gille or Gill in 1995. It consists in reformulating source text elements of various type in a different position into the target text so as to enable better short text reformulation. And in the synthesis we have three segments. The first one is generalization. That is, it consists in replacing a segment with a superordinate term or a more general speech segment. Number two is simplification. It consists in a lexical or stylistic simplification of the original message. And number three is deletion. The strategy taken from Kalina in 1998. It is consists in reprocessing the source language text through the deletion of superfluous or redundant information by means of a selection of information. And the last is expansion that have four segments. The first one is explanatory additions. It is a lexical and content expansion aimed at clarifying the message. Number two is additions to maintain coherence. That is a strategy aimed at explicating coherence relation with a view to conferring logical continuity to the text. This strategy is drawn from De Veo in 1993, who takes it from Van Dijk and Kinch. Number three is repetition. It consists in repeating previously processed elements as a way of enhancing lexical accuracy by means of synonyms or synonymic phrases. Number four is paraphrase. This strategy is described by Jill. So it is consist in explaining the meaning of a source language term or wording when the interpreter is unable to find the suitable target language correspondent. And then so the conclusion is production phase. Reformulation is an important phase of interpreting as it is for better understanding for audiences in case of any complex language or expression. So it's like when the speaker speaking of an idioms and then the interpreter should use other expression of or words which have the same meaning to better understanding of the audiences. And then many strategies and tactics are implemented in reformulation, and many different institute students or interpreter have their own strategy to adapt in simultaneous interpreting. So that is the last of the presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you for watching.